February 22, 2001. The morning frost clung to the windows of Eastfield High School as Tyler Brennan cut through the still water of the Olympic-sized pool, each stroke perfectly executed. At 17, his 6 feet 2 inches frame had been sculpted by years of 5 a.m. practices. The rhythmic splashing echoed in the empty natatorium as Coach Harmon checked his stopwatch. "Best time yet, Brennan," he called out, his voice bouncing off the tiled walls. "Scholarship's practically yours." Tyler pulled himself from the pool, water cascading from his broad shoulders. "Thanks, Coach." His voice was steady, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of unease that hadn't been there the day before. Coach Harmon noticed. "Everything all right, son?" Tyler hesitated, towel gripped tightly in his hand. "Yeah, just tired. Been studying late." "Don't burn yourself out before regionals," Coach warned, scribbling notes on his clipboard. "Hit the showers. Get to class." Tyler nodded, glancing at his watch, 7:10 a.m. Plenty of time before first period. The security camera mounted in the corner of the ceiling captured his tall figure walking alone toward the boys' locker room at 7:12, gym bag slung over his shoulder. It was the last confirmed sighting of Tyler Brennan. By 8:45 a.m., Tyler's AP chemistry teacher had marked him absent. Unusual for a student with perfect attendance. By third period, his friends were texting him. By lunch, the school office had called his parents. By 2:30 p.m., Officer Ramirez and Detective Kate Mercer stood inside the boys' locker room, staring at Tyler's open gym bag. Inside, his phone, showing 7 missed calls, his wallet, containing $37 and a driver's license, and his car keys, attached to a plastic trophy keychain from a swim meet victory. "Security cameras?" Detective Mercer asked, her dark eyes scanning the room. At 42, she'd worked missing persons for 15 years, but cases involving minors always left a knot in her stomach. "That's the thing," Principal Walters replied, wringing his hands. "He goes in at 7:12, but never comes out. We checked every exit. Nothing. Schools don't have blind spots anymore," Officer Ramirez muttered, making notes. "Ours does," Principal Walters admitted with visible discomfort. "Budget cuts last year. We haven't upgraded since '95. Mercer knelt beside the gym bag, her latex-gloved fingers carefully examining its contents. "Friends say anything about plans, troubles, unusual behavior?" "Everyone's shocked," Walters said. "Tyler's our golden boy. National Merit finalist. Swim team captain. Never even had detention." Mercer nodded, having heard similar descriptions of missing teens too many times. Perfect on paper seldom meant perfect in reality. Tyler's swim teammate, Colin Patterson, a lanky junior with nervous eyes, stood awkwardly by the door. "He seemed different yesterday," he volunteered. Mercer's attention sharpened. "Different how?" "After practice, I saw him arguing with Coach. Never seen that before. Then later, he was in here," Colin gestured toward the locker room, typing something on his phone super intensely. "When I asked what was up, he just said nothing and left." Detective Mercer wrote this down, then asked Colin to show her Tyler's locker. As the boy guided her through the rows of metal doors, she noticed the school's aging infrastructure, water stains on the ceiling tiles, flickering fluorescent lights that created dancing shadows in corners. At Tyler's locker, nothing seemed immediately suspicious: textbooks neatly stacked, gym clothes folded, a photo of him with his parents at a lake, and schedule taped inside the door. But when Mercer ran her hand along the top shelf, her fingers found something unexpected: a small key taped underneath, partially hidden. "What's this open?" she asked, holding up the small brass key with M7 etched into its head. Colin shrugged. "No idea. Never seen it." Principal Walters leaned in, adjusting his glasses. "Doesn't match our system. All our keys are coded differently." Mercer bagged the key as evidence, a small but potentially significant lead in a case that was already sending prickles of concern down her spine. 17-year-olds with bright futures didn't simply vanish from locked buildings. By 6 p.m. that evening, Tyler's parents sat in the Lexington Police Department, their faces drawn with worry. James Brennan, Tyler's father, couldn't stop fidgeting with his wedding ring. Sarah Brennan clutched her son's senior photo, taken just months earlier. He would never just leave, Sarah insisted, her voice cracking. Something's happened to him. We're exploring every possibility, Mercer assured them, though her instincts were already aligning with Sarah's fears. Can you think of anything unusual in his behavior recently? Any new friends, problems at school, concerns? James shook his head, but Sarah paused. He's been staying up late. I thought it was just studying, but I heard him on the phone a few nights ago. He sounded urgent. When I asked, he said it was nothing, just swim team stuff. And was there tension with anyone? Another student, perhaps? Sarah and James exchanged glances. Well, James began hesitantly, there was that thing with Derek last week. Derek Fulton, Sarah clarified. Another swimmer. Tyler was named team captain last week. Derek was disappointed. They've been competing for years. Detective Mercer added this to her growing list. Rivalry was a powerful motivator, but it seemed thin as a reason for disappearance. Still, she'd need to speak with Derek. That night, as rain pelted against the windows of the police station, Officer Ramirez returned from interviewing the school's custodial staff. Got something interesting, he said, dropping into the chair beside Mercer's desk. That key? Old janitor recognized it. Says there used to be maintenance rooms beneath the gym, but they were sealed off after a fire in 1983. Most people at the school don't even know they exist. Mercer straightened. And one of them was labeled M7. According to him, yes. Access is through a utility door near the pool equipment room. By 11 p.m., with a search warrant secured, Mercer and Ramirez returned to the eerily quiet school, accompanied by 2 additional officers and the reluctant janitor, Mr. Lowell, a man in his 60s with arthritic hands and eyes that had seen too much. Haven't been down there in years, he muttered as he led them past the pool, their flashlight beams cutting through darkness. Nothing but old pipes and dust now. The utility door was located behind pool filtration equipment, nearly invisible unless you knew where to look. It opened to reveal a narrow staircase descending into darkness. The air that rose to meet them was stale and damp. Watch your step, Lowell warned. Concrete's cracked in places. The maintenance corridor below was long and narrow, with rusted pipes running along the ceiling and walls covered in peeling paint. Their footsteps echoed ominously as they moved forward, flashlights revealing discarded tools and forgotten equipment from decades past. There, Ramirez pointed, his beam illuminating a metal door at the far end of the corridor. A faded M7 was painted on its surface, and a heavy padlock secured it from the outside. Mercer approached slowly, examining the lock. Recently used, she observed. No dust on it like everything else down here. When they cut through the padlock, the door creaked open to reveal a small room, about 8 by 10 feet. Their flashlights swept across the space, revealing a scene that sent ice through Mercer's veins, a broken wooden chair in the center, a used roll of duct tape discarded in the corner, and most disturbing, a white towel stained with what appeared to be dried blood. Jesus, Ramirez whispered. Get forensics down here, Mercer ordered, her voice tight. And seal off the entire area. By dawn, the school had transformed into a crime scene. Yellow tape cordoned off the pool and locker room areas, and news vans gathered outside like vultures. The blood-stained towel had been confirmed as a match to Tyler's DNA, turning a missing persons case into a probable assault, or worse. Derek Fulton, eyes red-rimmed from either lack of sleep or tears, sat across from Detective Mercer in a small interview room. I didn't even know that place existed, he insisted, hands trembling slightly. Yeah, I was pissed about Captain, but I wouldn't. I couldn't. Where were you yesterday morning between 7:10 and 8:30? Derek swallowed hard. Home. Overslept. My mom was already at work, so nobody can confirm it. No alibi. Motive, however thin. But something didn't fit. How would a student know about a sealed-off maintenance corridor? And the padlock had been secured from the outside. Someone had locked that door after whatever happened in that room. The investigation intensified. Students and staff were interviewed. Tyler's phone records showed nothing unusual except a number of calls to a prepaid phone that couldn't be traced. His computer revealed countless college research pages, swim team schedules, and normal teenage social media activity. Nothing pointed to why someone would want to harm Eastfield's star swimmer. Then came Coach Harmon's interview, which added another layer to the mystery. He found something, the coach admitted, looking uncomfortable under Mercer's steady gaze. In the old records. He was helping me organize the athletic department files for his community service hours. What did he find? I don't know exactly. But last week, he asked me about some missing grade records from the early 90s. Said there were inconsistencies. I told him it was probably just old paperwork getting lost in transitions. Happens all the time in schools. Did he seem satisfied with that answer? Coach Harmon hesitated. No. He seemed troubled. Said he wanted to look into it more. As days stretched into weeks, the trail grew colder. Searches of the woods surrounding the school yielded nothing. Tyler's bank account remained untouched. His car sat in the school parking lot, gathering pollen as winter melted into spring. Sarah Brennan called Detective Mercer daily, her hope fading with each passing day. James threw himself into organizing search parties that combed increasingly wider radiuses from the school. Then, exactly 2 months after Tyler's disappearance, the email arrived. It came simultaneously to 3 local news stations and the Brennan family's personal email address. The subject line was chilling in its simplicity. He was silenced. The body contained just 8 words. Not for who he was, but for what he saw. The sender couldn't be traced beyond a public library IP address in Detroit, Michigan, nearly 4 hours away from Lexington. This new development reignited media interest. The phrase, "what he saw," sent investigators back to Coach Harmon's statement about old records. The school board suddenly found itself under scrutiny, with parents demanding answers about what secrets might be hidden in Eastfield's history. Then came the anonymous tip that broke the case wide open. A former teacher, speaking through a lawyer to protect her identity, claimed there had been a systematic grade-changing scheme in the early 90s involving the athletic department. Star athletes had failing grades altered to maintain their eligibility, affecting scholarship opportunities for deserving students. The records Tyler found might have exposed who was responsible, Mercer theorized during a tense meeting with her lieutenant. People in positions of power now, who couldn't afford that kind of scandal. The investigation turned toward the school administration. Several board members had been teachers or coaches during the period in question. Principal Walters himself had been the assistant athletic director. The day after investigators requested access to all remaining records from the 90s, the school janitor who had recognized the M7 key, Mr. Lowell, abruptly resigned and left town. His apartment was found empty, with neighbors reporting he'd left in the middle of the night. He knew something, Ramirez insisted. He's been at that school since the 80s. He would have known about any cover-ups. But Lowell had vanished as completely as Tyler, leaving behind more questions than answers. The case hit roadblock after roadblock. Records had been destroyed in a routine purge years earlier. People with knowledge had moved away or refused to talk. The school board hired expensive lawyers who blocked access to personnel files. Tyler's face gradually disappeared from the front pages. His classmates graduated without him. His parents divorced under the strain of their unresolved grief. Detective Mercer kept the file open, returning to it between other cases, unwilling to let it go cold completely. Years passed. The old Eastfield High building was condemned in 2015, deemed structurally unsound after decades of neglect. Plans were made to demolish it and build a modern facility. During the demolition in early 2016, workers breaking up the concrete foundation beneath the gym made a disturbing discovery. In a small crawlspace, accessible only by removing specific sections of flooring, they found a plastic bag containing Tyler's shoes, his broken watch stopped at 7:21 a.m., and a shirt with his name stitched inside. The items had been carefully hidden, preserved in the darkness beneath thousands of pounds of concrete. The discovery brought renewed attention to the case, but still no answers. The crawlspace had been sealed long before Tyler's disappearance. The concrete dated back to renovations in the 90s. Someone with intimate knowledge of the building's structure had known exactly where to hide evidence. Forensic analysis of the recovered items provided little help. Years underground had degraded any DNA evidence that might have been present. The watch had stopped at 7:21 a.m., just 9 minutes after Tyler was last seen on camera. The narrow timeframe suggested whatever happened to him occurred quickly, efficiently, as if planned. Tyler's body was never found. Today, the new Eastfield High School stands gleaming on the site of the old building. State-of-the-art security cameras monitor every corner. Students walk bright hallways unaware of the darkness that once existed beneath their feet. In the new locker room, designed with open sightlines for safety, one locker remains permanently sealed. A simple bronze plaque above it reads, "Reserved for Tyler Brennan. A swimmer. A student. A question mark." Detective Kate Mercer, now retired, still drives by the school occasionally. She keeps a copy of Tyler's case file in her home office. Sometimes, late at night, she spreads the photos and reports across her desk, searching for something she might have missed. She often returns to the email, not for who he was, but for what he saw. What did Tyler see in those old records? Who had access to the sealed corridor? Why did Lowell disappear? And perhaps most haunting, was someone walking free who knew exactly what had happened in those 9 minutes after 7:12 a.m. on February 22, 2001? The case remains officially open but inactive. Yet in a small town like Lexington, some secrets never truly disappear. They simply wait beneath the surface, like Tyler's hidden possessions, until someone disturbs the ground above them. Some whisper that on cold February mornings, the new pool sometimes bears the faint impression of footprints along its edge when the first swimmers arrive. Maintenance checks the security cameras, finding nothing but static at precisely 7:12 a.m. Just whispers, of course. Just a story told by students who were born years after Tyler Brennan walked into the locker room and vanished. But in Lexington, when swim practice ends and the natatorium falls silent, few students linger alone. And no one, absolutely no one, stays after the lights go out. Because some questions are better left unanswered. And some secrets, like what truly happened to Tyler Brennan, leave marks that no amount of new concrete can fully cover.